Okay, give me 1 second. Confirm this thing's actually working. Yeah, I still have so many. It's just up in the air, like routing and. Oh, 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 oh. Okay, okay. I think we're on. Okay, you still hearing me?
Yeah, I can.
All right. So this is, I think, number 17, dropping in at Pipeline Audio. And look, I have by now co-host Phil Zio in.
Yo,
And
I'm a co-host.
so let's see. So first of all, you just came back from something, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to be going back out on Thursday. This time I'm going from, instead of Baltimore, which is only like 2.5 hours away, I'm going down to Tampa, Florida,
All
and
right.
it's going to be hell on earth.
So what did you just do in Baltimore?
Uh, well, we did a women's conference for a major church, and then now we're going to do the youth conference down in Tampa. And the youth conference is 20 times more difficult in every way. We're always understaffed. It's always in a very, very hot place, which is why I joke that it's hell. Because, you're doing a church conference in the hottest place imaginable. It's probably hell. And it is really rough every time. Like, even the people from the church themselves, they don't want to do it.
Oh wow.
So people be dropping out left and right, and project managers and general managers for the event always change. So like I was down in Baltimore doing it, and it was like the conversation that we had was tantamount to, "Oh, you guys are going to be there? You shouldn't have taken that. I'm not even going to be there." And I was like, "Is it too late to drop out?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was hard to even bring myself to let myself be crude for the show, but like I'm not going to turn away money, and I'm just going to be doing monitors for hopefully once the load in is done. I say hopefully because we're probably going to get called away and do tons of different things between the shows when everything goes wrong and stuff breaks and people do all sorts of crazy shenanigans. So I'm hopeful that I only have to do a little bit besides monitors, but it would be a complete miracle if I had to do nothing but my job that I was crewed for going down
So
there.
so what exactly are you setting up? Are they gonna have bands and all kinds of stuff? So you're just setting up. So they don't have their own gear down there, or are you just running their gear, or how does that
Dude,
work?
we take multiple tractors down there with usually 3, 4, or 5 53-foot trailers, depending on the event size, because every year it's different. Because, like I said, people drop out left and right and things change up to the last minute. When we went down to Baltimore for the women's conference, it was easy as pie, and still stuff was changing the day the show started.
No.
It was just way easier to deal with because we had more people and we had uh, everything we could have possibly needed taken there. With this, it's probably going to be the opposite. It's probably going to be because we're understaffed. They're going to ask for like more stuff, and we're going to be like, ah. So yeah, we take down tractor trailers full of audio, lights, stage. Usually, we didn't have to do stage last time, and all manner of other stuff that they ask for. So like pipe and drape, we might do that. We might have to do banners. We might have to do all kinds of things. So it just depends on how much they want to throw on us. But I'd say I'm not complaining, but this is exactly what I'm doing. So, is what it is.
So you're actually driving that down from Pennsylvania down to Florida?
I'm not driving. I'm gonna ride in the sleeper cab. I'm gonna sleep the whole 14 hours down, or however long it's gonna
Man,
be.
I
So Thursday morning, I'm getting up at probably 2, 3 in the morning, and I'm just getting in that cab, and I am not gonna touch a wheel.
man, it's as rough as I know that really is. I'm so jealous because like I normally can't travel because of health issues, but I just remember anytime you're eating up road miles in the mainland in a truck or whatever, especially if it's at night, you get to see, if you really watch, you get to see so many reptiles, so many different animals.
Yeah.
It's the moving in a car over there is the funnest thing in the world for me, and I didn't get to do very much of it, but I got to do enough where I got to You feel like you're driving through a pet store. It's just so neat, man. Like, and Florida is infamous for having stuff. So,
Oh,
that'd
dude,
be awesome.
I have family down in Florida. I have family down in Georgia, and it's kind of weird because you go down to Georgia, you see a lot of like the deer that are different species than the ones you would see up here, and it's pretty cool. Or is it even a speciation difference? I think it's just like a breed difference, really. So they just have different identifying marks. But like, it's kind of cool seeing that. Going down to Florida, it's like I'm in a different country. It's literally like Cuba 2.0 or Colombia 2.0, where it's like the geography is just mountains and then flatlands and then swamps, and there's alligators everywhere,
Yeah.
and you got like birds that you can't see anywhere else in the country, and it's just nuts. So I'm kind of pumped to be going to Florida, not pumped to be going at a time when I know I'm going to have one dark day at best, and everything else is going to be like 12, 16-hour days.
Oh,
So
man.
it's going to be rough. Right now, I've been working 9 to 10-hour days, just prepping it every day of the week, and it's going to be so much worse when we get there. Hopefully not. I still want to knock on wood and say that it won't be, but it's live sound. It's live events, it's live staging, it's live lighting. Like, no matter what could go wrong, it always finds a way to go wrong.
So, are you guys running piles of X32s or M32s or something? What are you doing?
At the last place in Baltimore, I was really lucky to have learned on the job in a CL5. And it's our smallest event of the year. It's like maybe $100,000 job at most. And it's bringing in 12 techs maybe, and most of those don't even stay. Most of them are just load in, load out guys. So we're really only using 3 or 4 techs for the actual show, and that we all ran CL5s. This time, because we're going to have tons of different rooms, we're probably going to have a women's speaking room, we're going to have a Sunday school room, like breakout rooms, and main hall 1, main hall 2, maybe. So I'd say we're probably going to have a lot of people with CL5s. We're probably going to have a couple dudes with LS9s. We might have somebody bring a Digico or an Allen and Heath, depending on what we subrent. But somebody's going to have a CL5, probably the main room. I love that board now, even though there's a couple things that it does weird. It is so radically a different experience than the X32. But I'm going to assume that the monitor room that I'm going to be doing in is probably going to have an X32. Because last time I did this event, I had an X32 and the monitor guy did, so I'm just going to assume it's the same exact loadout from last time. I hear typing.
Yeah, I just got. Yeah, okay. So that's another thing I got to do. But I just got busted for not putting my headphones on. Hold on, let me make sure this is working. Okay, let's see. Do I have headphones? God,
I have.
I hear you. Okay, good.
I have a couple pairs if you need some.
Okay, so let's see.
Let me just run it down to you real quick.
Yeah, just swim over. Okay, where's my? I just had a thing. Where did it go? Okay, so for me, This week has been the week of Totalmix. Last week I put that RME card in, and it was working pretty badly, and it turned out that it didn't like the VIA chipset USB that I have, and then so I had this other USB card that I think Vern had told me to get, either Vern or Scott, and I put that back in my computer. I plugged it in there, and it has not made a single problem ever since, so that's good. But I've been racking my brains and torturing you guys in chat trying to get my other stuff with Totalmix working, so I know you're excited by that part. So one of the things is, we at the very beginning we're always talking about how hard it is to route stuff between apps and Windows and loop back and all that kind of stuff. RME's Totalmix lets you loop back stuff, but so for instance, I have Reaper playing out channels 1 and 2. Then I have 1 and 2 sending to 31 and 32 out, and I have 31 and 32 out looping back to looping back to the inside of 31 and 32 out. It's kind of complicated, but I'm able to, without plugging cables in, send audio around and actually get what I want done. But what I do have to figure out is it has this really cool talkback function, which I'm using because then I don't need to use both a narration mic and a talkback mic. But when you set it up as a talkback mic, you can't route it normally to other channels as far as I can tell. And one of the things I need to do with the Skype thing is to send you my Reaper output and my narration output. So I got to figure that one out. But
do you want to see how I'm doing that right now?
yeah, how are you doing that?
All right, so let me see if I can set. All right. So I should be doing screen sharing right now. I don't know if you have the ability to see that. If you go to the Skype window, it should let you. Let me do
Wait,
this.
I'm going to change that?
Yeah, you can actually enable.
Yep.
I just
there we
sent the
go.
request again. So yeah, right now I'm able to send my screen and my.
Wait, why am I not seeing your... I'm seeing your screen, but why am I not seeing that on my Skype window? Hold on. Let me see if
I'm not sure.
Oh, wow. I can put them both on here separately.
Yeah, can you?
Oh, but yep. But
Yo,
I didn't do it.
that's
but
so cool.
You can with this NDI thing. So, but I'm not going to because I know I'll break everything in the universe.
All right.
But.
So the other thing I'm doing is, if you can check this out, I'm up here going through wave out.
Yep.
And with that, because I'm able to send it over Skype, I also have this sending as my control the volume mixer. And hopefully that should let you hear what this is.
Yep.
Yeah. So you hear that?
Yep. That works.
Sweet. So that's basically my whole routing thing for when I'm doing mixing through Reaper, but also doing other stuff. You know?
See, my issue with that is that I'd like to have the band out there playing live.
Yeah, no,
Azio
recording
and
it's a totally different issue.
But yeah, that's cool that we can do that now, man. That's, oh, geez.
That's the way of life. I like when things change for the better.
Yeah, but
And Skype has made it so much easier.
With this loop back, I'm doing okay, and there is a way. I mean, I know there's like 50 different ways to skin this cat, but I'll be dealing with that one later. This kind of stuff. It's one of those things where it's so frustrating that you don't even know how to describe it to somebody else. Then you know you're in trouble, and then you go away for a little while and you figure it out. But one of the things that was killing me is Totalmix. With all of RME's power and their abilities and stuff, I'm a little bit cynical about why it is that they do this. But they specifically routed or mapped Totalmix's functions to very strange MIDI choices, and I know, the tinfoil hat in me says, well, they do have a remote device that they sell, and it would be in their best interest for you to buy that instead of doing this stuff. But they route. I'm seriously now. You could use MCU mode, and in MCU mode they use the play control from the Mackie control unit. Play starts talkback and stops talkback.
Yeah.
That's weird. Or if you do it with raw MIDI, it's a note number 94, note on, note off, which I couldn't get working anyway. But that's weird. But at least it does work. So I was saying, like, hey, shouldn't I be able to make a toolbar icon in Reaper and then have that send MIDI over to Totalmix and start it and stop it? But really it doesn't. Reaper doesn't really have that function where you can do that. I could do it with OSC because of it'll take OSC.
Yeah.
And I could actually, I tried sticking in John Tidy's web remote builder thing. He's looking into it now, but I'm sure there's a way to do that. But another way could be with auto hotkey, and then I have to have like a dummy icon up there, I guess. But
Yeah.
One of the problems is not knowing for sure if they're synced. Like I might think that I have talkback off, and that's what Reaper says, but it's really on, and I'm sitting there, man, that singer's so crappy. Like they hear you right through. You know, all kinds of ways to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So I was looking at keystrokes to MIDI, and it looks like the only thing still really out there is that Bohm MIDI translator thing, and that thing's like $80, man. I'm sure there's an easier way to do it. and I didn't see any OSC to MIDI or OSC to keyboard to OSC or keystrokes to OSC. But
Well,
really, Reaper should send and receive MIDI and OSC. I'm sure there's a way to do it. We could trick it into making it think it's another computer, but we should talk about that later on. Figure
I
that
don't even
out.
think you would need to trick it. I'm pretty sure there's got to be a native way to do it because there's routing inside. I know. Have you used the Loop B MIDI thing?
I did when I was first trying to get the guitar stuff working, and I was using it with the CME Witty Bud, which is an unreal little. It's the best $60 you'll ever spend for wireless MIDI, man. That's pretty cool.
Well, I know that in the past when I've tried to do really stupid, weird stuff, like when I hooked up I hooked up an old Xbox controller and used it to play drums by assigning MIDI controls with some scripts and a couple of things. I had to send that out to the Loop B and then also had to enable that in Reaper as the primary input device for a little while. And I was like, it was kind of a lot of work and it was a lot of programming stuff, just like the code for it, because I had to figure out what each of those buttons was called on the hardware and all that. So I know Loop B is a really versatile thing that can route anything to anything, but you might want to look into doing that maybe and see if anybody can help.
I should, because I could send it out through MCU protocol. I could send it out through the protocols. It's just I don't know that Reaper has a function to actually send MIDI. Oh yes, of course it does. Well I'll figure that out. That's I'll fight that later. But I know somebody was saying it didn't, but we'll figure it out. But one of the cool things I was looking at was at first we went and got these analog force feedback joysticks, and we were figuring out ways to run transport controls with Reaper and stuff. But I found this program called Furgon. Let me see. I don't even know how to say it. I think it's some French thing, but it's a joystick to MIDI program. And then this guy had taken apart a whole ton of joysticks and stuck all the buttons into one panel, and then he plugged it in. He had his own like launch pad thing, and they were all velocity sensitive because of the joystick pads. So he could like shove it real fast, or he could do it soft. I was like, oh wow, that's pretty smart.
I have a friend who built a MIDI controller that was literally like an arcade cabinet that you held like a keytar, and it had all these like joystick, it had buttons, it had some of those old like pressure sensitive slider things that would be like run up and down, that I think they used in one of the Rock Bands or Guitar Hero things for a while as well. Like there was just so many different button inputs and stuff, and there was one that was photosensitive, so he would like move his hand up and away from it, and that would trigger like CC23 or something, and he would just value expression change with this optical sensor. And that was one of his projects that I think that helped him graduate college. But it was really funny seeing how people could take all this stuff and just do whatever they wanted with it. I think he used Arduino as a base, actually, as a platform.
I was looking at that Uno thing because it looked like there's all kinds of stuff that I could do with it, because I don't want to pay $200 for one MIDI button, right?
Yeah.
But this Arduino Uno card looked like it was really, really useful. Like you could, it's just so cool that we live in an age where you can do anything, man. It's kind of crazy.
My what does your Reaper toolbar look like up there? Like, what are the buttons there? Because I know that's a very personal question, but
I don't have any custom ones on this one except for, let's see, custom MIDI Burge, the dynamic split, and the adjuster for the new theme, the 6.0 theme, and the multi-channel meter so that I can make my sidechain meters go away, so I only see the regular stereo meter for like my kick and bass. But that's
a thing you can do.
Oh yeah, but I don't know if you've seen this. Did you see this? These other icons I made on the side here, my side toolbar.
I don't see them on my Skype window.
Oh crap! Oh, hold on. Can you? It's the very farthest left.
No, I don't think I can see that.
Oh crap!
on
I
this
wonder
window.
why.
Hold on, let me see about.
Well, that's
Is
okay.
there-
It's anyway. I have these. It's for these show and hide groups,
Mhm.
so it'll show and hide all the drum tracks. It'll show and hide all
Oh.
the trigger tracks, bass, clean guitar, crunch guitar,
Mhm.
heavy guitar, lead guitar, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And John Tidy was doing something like that, but then I was like, hey, I really actually want to be able to show or hide these things, and so I can really have a giant template, and I can clean up all my junk, and I'm just
Yeah.
using the cycle editor to do it, and so that I've been using for the last month or so, and that's really been cleaning up my life.
I can imagine.
So you
How
can see
big?
my screen, right?
Yeah, I can. If you would just
Okay.
drag that down to the right a little bit, it would help me see the whole toolbar, just so I can get a feel for it. Oh wow, those are
Why
real
can't I?
clean looking icons.
Yeah, I stole most of them, or I stole them off Google Images.
For the most part, our entire left side of the toolbar is pretty much identical. I would say right up until the metronome and no, yeah, the entire top bar is the same for both you and me. The only difference for me is right next to that I have a enable effects on selected track Lua
Ah,
script, which is super useful for if I ever just want to control A and then toggle off everything without going down and trying to also control hit the effects button, you know?
yeah.
So it's a little bit more key commanded. And then below that, I have in a row MPL align takes Lua script, then the dynamic split assigned to D,
Uh,
SWS's quantize item and note positions to grid with Q, and then fill gaps between selected items, advanced mode with Control F. So you can imagine what I would do with those particular buttons in a row. Dynamic
what?
split, align take, quantize items, and then fill gaps between items. Uh,
We have some drummers over here who'd like to talk to you. But,
oh, I bet they would. But I did it once for a guy, and it did like 90% of the work for me. And
wow.
he was like, "What are we paying you for?" I'm like, I had to set those up
Yeah,
properly.
exactly. That wasn't easy. But
No,
what does
it
the
was
align
work.
takes one do?
That one I struggle with a little bit more. That one's actually an MPL Lewis script, so it was made by one of the guys on the forum, and it basically is like Vocaline, but it it's really hard for me to get. But you press the get button, you scan the thing, you press another one, you scan that thing, and it'll align it basically. But I don't use that one very often because typically I find it way faster to do slice and drag for all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm really bad with the takes in Reaper. Like I don't really understand. Once one is slightly longer than the other, and I can't remember how to move them independently and all that junk.
Yeah.
So I barely use them that much, but I know I force myself to say, okay, I'm keeping that take just in case, but I barely do it. I kind of end up using the last. Yeah, I mean, I go
Yeah.
to next take, previous take, but I don't do as much. I mean, we really made a big deal about how you could do this comping thing with the show and hide
It's
lanes.
the best.
And
It
then
is literally the best.
yeah,
I just
we
don't need
spent-
to use it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. We spent forever working that out and was so proud of it and stuff. And then you find me not using it. Man, the routing matrix we stole straight off of RME, right? I mean, that
It's
was
such
so
a good routing
important to me.
matrix, though.
Nope. But I mean, at the very beginning, that was so important to me. And
Yeah.
then after a while, I never used it again. Like it's terrible, man. People were spoiled. We're
That's
totally
the
spoiled.
amazing thing. There's so many good functions that I just don't use because, like, the better I got at doing what I wanted, the less I needed to rely on those things. So
Yeah.
even with takes, I rarely even keep takes anymore
Wow.
unless a band specifically says, "Can you keep that take?" And I'm like, I'm just such in the habit of just like Alt-Shift-T'ing everything after I'm happy with a take. I destroy everything. I don't even care.
You know that it's funny because that's how I started in this business. Right, we had a tape recorder, and if you were sure that that thing was no good, you recorded right over it, and if you
Yeah,
weren't sure, you kept it. There was there was no like, I think this might be okay.
exactly.
Maybe you had another track, but probably not.
Yeah. And that's exactly why. Like, I treat takes as if they're a thing that I might look at later, but rarely do I ever actually do it. Like, when I'm in actual recording mode and I'm serious about something, I know whether or not it worked. It's it's really a matter of confidence at that point, and that's something I have in spades.
That's good. So let's see.
Maybe.
Well, if it works, then it's good. And it saves everybody time. You're not. Oh man, that's a whole nother.
There have been
Fight.
that want to keep like 7 or 8 different takes of an electric guitar part or like a lead part, and I think to myself, man, I could chop out 3 of these without looking at them, and what would I have lost? Like, nothing. And then the other 5, I listened to the first 2 seconds and I'm like, nope, nope, nope. All right, now I'm down to 2. What do I want to do with these? Well, whichever one I like better, I guess. But even that is way more effort than I usually put into comping takes, because I usually stop them if I didn't like something they did and I make them redo it. I know it's not, it's kind of frowned upon nowadays because people are like, man, just let the musician keep going because the next part might be good and you don't want to ruin their flow. And I'm like, if they want that, they can specifically tell me that beforehand. But otherwise, I'm going to say, nope, do it again. We're going to get something good. Then we'll move on.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you spend a life figuring out. Like, are you, feeling what exact kind of client you're dealing with too? Is this,
yes, because I've had clients that have been real touchy about it, and they're like, what if the second part's better than the first part? And I'm like, okay, we can take it easy.
And
I'll
just
let
freaking
it
out their vibe. They're like, no.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You stop, wait, and then oh man, the best is when you have jam bands in with their 17-minute long songs.
No! And then they get 16 minutes in, and the one guy's playing a lead, and it's just like, and like the note dies, and everybody looks at him, and they're like,
oh man,
can we overdub that part? And I'm like, well, you stopped. If you wanted to have overdubbed that part but kept going, you could have. But now that you stopped, and you yourselves have said that you can't just start from a part that's not the beginning,
exactly.
man. This is on you guys. I'm letting it roll, man. I'm just a glorified tape recorder right now. You're paying me money to make sure it gets onto the track, and that's it. So if you want to take longer, pay me.
Or they have, this stuff is such a run-on sentence that they're like, hey, the third chorus, I want you to punch me in there. I'm like, I have no idea where the third chorus is. We're going to have to listen back from 20 minutes ago and just keep going.
Riff.
And you tell me.
Your riff doesn't change between the verse and the chorus. Don't expect me to intuit where a chorus is, especially if you're not doing the vocals, especially if there are no vocals. Ugh. If it's a 20-minute instrumental track where it's literally just like GCD over and over again, and the drum part doesn't change. It like goes, and then you just play the ride whenever you feel like it. Like, if there's no rhyme or reason, and it's just 3 chords over and over again, I can't help you. I don't know what it means. Yeah, it's like you saying, please, do this thing for me. Please, do this thing for me. I'm like, okay, what's the thing? And you're like, please, do this thing for me. It doesn't work that way. I need information up front, or else I can't do the thing you're thinking.
Okay, so here's something I really wanted your opinion on here.
Yes, I love it. I've been playing with it so much.
Oh, okay, good, awesome. So I did a video last night or the other night where I compared the. Okay, I know. So a lot of you guys have seen my manifesto I sent to Positive Grid about bias, and they did actually come through on a ton, almost everything on my list, but part of it, the really big one, and I can show you right here. I don't even care what I pick. Right here, I can see the value of a parameter just by looking
Yeah.
at it. It has the value next to it. If I want, I can type it in. Oh my God, I just typed it in. And
You
if
may
I want
want
to
to
fine
move my
tune,
face out of the way because I'm blocking all the parameters except the level.
okay, well, I can just do it on level. So here I am on level. I can type in something. I can see the value at any time. I know this destroys the prettiness of what bias does and stuff, but whatever. I mean, if we're trying to get work done, I'm sorry. It's nice to look pretty, and I know that you got to be in sync with what the iOS version, the mobile apps do, and the mobile people are not quite as intelligent for the most part, so they need that kind of thing. And I know where they're like, oh, it doesn't matter what number it is, just use your ears, bro. Like, no. I want repeatable stuff. We have the technology. If you don't want to look at it, don't look at it. But here it is. I don't know if there's like fine tuning on here. Did you find a fine tuner?
There,
I'm sure
when it
there's
comes to
something.
fine tuning, you have to hold control before you start, and then you have to move it.
Ah, okay. Well, that works.
It doesn't work the other way around, I don't think, because if you do it after you've started, it sometimes freaks out.
And did you see that you can just drag and drop an impulse and that becomes
I
your...
did. That was the very first thing I tried because I was like, can I?
Yeah. So I'm not 1,000% happy with the amp sounds yet, but I just haven't played with it that much. So
Yo, Lynchbach. Is that what I think it is? Is that a George Lynch?
That's some of the Celestion ones from Celestion's site.
Yo, really?
Yeah, they have, man, every speaker they make, I think they made impulses for it now.
They would.
Yeah. Well, they better.
That is such a them thing. Yo, check it out. I already made 4 presets. Okay?
Awesome.
Because the best part of it is, and I wanted to test this, is the sheer ability to share stuff both as a file and online. Like, I can just send you this exported preset data as a GFX patch file, a .tlgfx, and then I can also go online if I had an account. I haven't made it yet. I only played with this for like 20 minutes, but it's been pretty fun. And so far, I have 4 presets, one of which is just purely an effect one, right? Because I always want to see what I can do with effects.
Yeah.
And it gives me that sound that I would expect from like a radio, right? Just doing like a noise gate into a fuzz pedal that's tuned just the right way and some tweaks on the one of the boutique drive things. And I was like, yo, the fact that I can immediately make a sound just intuitively and everything's laid out right here as if it's like a phone, right? Everything's laid out the way you would expect it to be, and it's intuitive. You can turn knobs, but it's also got all of the values next to the knobs.
Yeah.
That makes life better. It's not just a radial dial from 1 to 10, and you're like, It's literally like percentage of presence is 100 or it's 0. It doesn't get better than that.
Speaking, okay, so I guess we should say this is a VST and a standalone guitar amp and effects simulator, something like Bias Effects or Amplitude or whatever.
You can also use it with zoom pedals.
Oh yeah, they have that too, and it's called. What do you think it's? How do you think they say Tonelib?
Yeah,
What?
I would imagine it's Tonelib.
Okay, so just type in Tonelib, like Tonelib, and GFX is the product that we're talking about right now.
Tone, like the buzzword that all guitarists use when referring to any product they want to shill you, and lib, like the bloody freaking liberals, you know? So it's hard to mess up.
And so far, what I haven't seen, I don't think there's any MIDI on the VST version, but there is some MIDI on the standalone. I don't know if they have auto engage for the wah. I don't think so. I was looking around. They don't have a harmonizer yet.
They have an octaver with fuzz.
Yeah, they have some pitch shifter stuff, but not a harmonizer.
They do have an octave harmonizer though, with if you're using the fuzz thing.
But it's not really a harmonizer, right? It's just a chromatic pitch shifter.
It's an exact octave. So yeah, it's kind of like
when old fuddy-duddies say harmonizer, we mean one that you have to specify a key and an interval rather than a pitch shift amount. So
yeah. I love those, by the way. I use those on a lot of things, so I get the need for one. Not a lot of people understand those nowadays. We were actually explaining that to somebody today because a guy was like, "Oh, I don't need theory to be a good guitar player." And we were all just really leaning into him, and we were like, "Have you ever used a harmonizer? Have you ever done like writing that you've had to send to somebody else? Because not knowing any theory at all means you can't communicate your ideas well, and that's all it means." So we were talking about that, and one of the guys from the 80s, one of the guys who was a prolific player in the 80s was like, whenever I had to do a harmonized lead, I'm not going to hire somebody else. I'm going to set my key, set my interval, and harmonize. And everybody looked at him like, and then somebody else was like, "You mean like auto-tune?" And he's like, "Yes."
So, you know, that used to be the getting onto the computers. That was one of the holy grails. So there was one of the things that we were waiting for the longest time was a Mutt Lange type treble booster, a decent reverb, you know, for the longest time, especially a gated reverb, and a harmonizer. And one of the internet stoner lores going around at the time was that Eventide had a patent on making harmonizers or something, and like if you made an intelligent pitch shifter, they could sue you, and so nobody would do it. And then Amplitude stepped up to the plate, made a harmonizer, and I got to tell everybody I told you so, and you can suck it. And then one of the Reaper guys made a free one. I forget what it's called. Oh man, what in the world is there? There's a free harmonizer, works pretty good, made in WDL, and then Bias Effects 2 has a harmonizer. I think, but the TH3 had a harmonizer, so that's just an important thing. And now we got the ultimate Mutt Lange treble booster things. We got Audio Assault's Exciter, and Type A works pretty good.
There was also one. I think I need to check the tool tips because there was actually something that was reminded me a lot. Oh, I think the B Scream. Yeah, there's a great treble booster in Tonelib called B Scream, which emulates the EHX's Screaming Bird treble booster. And that works so good. Cool. Like, it felt very Mutt Lange to me when I heard it. I was like, am I a hair metal band now?
Well, we got to try it on vocals and we'll see.
Yeah, like, I would probably put this on vocals if... I just wish that they had some form of output on what the gain reduction was. Like, that's my pet peeve. So I haven't been using the compressors in there, and I'm like, some people don't care, but I do.
And that's the thing with these guitar pedals. So, like, that's one of the things, like, in Bias, like, no matter what, we're probably never going to get, because real guitar compressors don't have a threshold. So you're like, okay, with this guitar, it works fine. With that guitar, it doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it's like a sensitivity thing, and I just think to myself, what's that going to do for me? Is that adjusting the threshold in the ceiling? Is that adjusting the ratio at some point? Is that adjusting the knee? Like, I don't know what sensitivity adjusts, but so many guitar pedals only say sensitivity and output, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, so one of the things I really need to say about this is that and I showed this in the video I was doing with the other day. The CPU use is insanely low, and more importantly, the real-time CPU use is like nothing. I've showed that Bias's cabinet loader takes about 14% on my computer, whereas just the cabinet loader, you turn it off and Bias is down to 4%. But that means that Bias on my very healthy computer is eating 20% of real-time CPU, which is already pretty dangerous. And in comparison, Tonelib with the IR loader and everything ends up running about 2% real-time CPU, 0.5% of real CPU.
Okay, switch to my screen really quick because this is pretty important, I think.
Okay, let's see. How do I do that?
Check the performance meter for like 2 seconds on my system with this fairly heavy Tonelib chain loaded, where I've got like 2 EQs and a cab sim and another EQ, super overdrive and a noise gate and an amp model, you'll notice that it is literally 0 CPU usage. It is 0.2 real-time CPU usage. And I was playing through it earlier, like actually playing, it never went above like 0.3. I was shocked because it's literally reporting 0 CPU pretty much the whole time.
Wow. So
the only thing is Skype using CPU right now.
I can't. Do you have on your performance meter? Do you have real-time CPU enabled? I can't see it quite.
I do in the left. I don't have it per track.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. So it's just the way it is, man. I do my best to find plugins that I can use at 0 latency and at a very low CPU so that I can track, because tracking is important.
Yeah.
Not everybody knows that, but it is. And
well, that's why everybody gets mad at me. But I'm like, I am asking for zero latency plugins for a reason,
Yeah. And look at that. Would you look at that? Like 0 CPU usage and 0 SPLs of latency. Yep. This is the holy grail of kicking bias in the nuts. I hate to say it, but
it is. And
it is.
I spent a lot of time over the last 2 years trying to help Positive Grid out with this stuff. And there's one more thing where they really, really, really did well, and that is I don't know if you've ever seen one of those videos where I load up a fresh program and then I just put one instance of bias in, hit save, and then look at the size of the RPP. The Reaper project file, one instance of bias effects can put it up to about 300 kilobytes. And after a meg or so, Reaper project files can get a little bit wonky. It's not as bad as it used to be, but still scary to get them big and all. And one of the consequences of that is you'll notice that it takes forever for Bias's GUI to load up.
Dude, absolutely.
And it's always sticky. Saving takes a little long. We had another, back in the day, Slate had the same problem where their programs made huge, giant, just writing hash to the project file. And Justin told them how to take care of it. I told Positive Grid how to take care of it. They haven't yet. Tonelib's GFX, it writes, still it's a lot. It's like 10K, 20K, 30K, but that's a far cry from the 300K. So it's like a tenth of it, if that.
You're not wrong.
That's a big deal for your performance,
On the other hand, stuff like Virtual Mix Rack and Slate Digital, they've done a really good job at improving their efficiency and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, you can load dozens of modules and be at about the same rates that Tonelib is at, which is great. There have just been so much more efficiency because some companies do work with Justin and work with anybody who's part of the Reaper community, and it does my heart good to see. Like when Slate was doing that one mix with CLA thing, before Waves did it, and he was distributing the projects, it was like started with just Cubase and Reaper projects, and I was like, yo, awesome. That is major props, I think, from that community.
That's strange from that community, actually, but that's good.
Quick question. Do you know if, I don't know if you've researched it, but seeing the IR processor there, when you share a preset, does it somehow save a copy of the IR that's used initially with it? And does it load it?
I don't know. So what I did is I saved a couple presets on this, and then it's synced with my Dropbox at home, and then I'm going to open it up and see what exactly happens when I open that project file.
My other question is, have you tried a variety of sample rates? Because I only tried it with one of my presets, but I thought that stuff that was saved at a different sample rate than the project was, and thus what the plugin would be loaded at, like its internal engine would be natively 44.1 or whatever if the project was. I noticed that a lot of ones that were like 48 kilohertz or 96 kilohertz had a weird kind of resonance, like the kind you would get in Bias before you actually match your whatever to the one that you've loaded as a preset. So like I know it used to have that problem where unless you actively matched it, it would have that like weird barrel of oil sounding resonance.
I haven't tried it on this one, so all my impulses are at 44K that I'm working in anyway. But
okay,
yeah, okay, that's what I also want to talk about with this thing. Here's this mystery, okay? Mm-hmm. Who the hell are these guys? Like, it seems like they came out of nowhere. Like they know everything. They hit the ground running with pretty much everything right. I'm really thinking that I have my suspicions. So I thought it was Scott Meyer, but it turns out he just tried it last night. He goes, "Oh, this is cool." So apparently it's not him. I'm wondering about Obi, who used to work over at IK. Like, whoever did this understands this stuff in a way that most companies don't understand what their end users go through, and that was a big part of making Reapers. That we wanted something that, you know, what do you use when you're the person having to use it, and these guys, whoever made this, really get it. And you know what? So I'm going to pop up something else here because these guys made their own. This thing opens guitar profiles for free.
Which I didn't know how you could do that. I thought GP files were like proprietary.
No, I mean Tux Guitar can, but
can it?
Yeah, certain ones, I think up to GP5 or whatever.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because I have a friend that uses GP5, and I've never been able to open his stuff. He has to save it in like an older format or like a compatibility mode or something.
So this one, let's just check what I can open here. Browse. Let me see what I can find. So they have another product called Jam, which it does a whole lot of crazy stuff. But one of the coolest things is okay. So these are GPX, which I think is Guitar Pro 6 files.
Whoa.
Let's see what happens. Yep, there we go. So it's open.
Holy heck!
So it opens guitar profiles, but one of the goofiest things, I think this is meant to be like kind of like Positive Grid Spark, where you kind of play along with stuff too.
Yeah.
But what I didn't expect to see is this.
Holy!
So we're looking at VST plugins. You can load VST plugins in this thing. So I think you're really, and you can record into it too. Like I don't know if this is like a DAW as well as to put a DAW and a guitar tablature editor together. I kind of, it's almost like when Guitar Center built all those nice rooms here on my island. It's like, oh, do I have to close the school because they just did it beautiful? Like, is this the end of Reaper? I don't think so, but man, if it's a DAW with the tablature editor in it as well, that's kind of crazy.
I have to scan for plugins.
Yeah.
Like where did these people come from?
Yeah, exactly. These guys are aliens. They popped onto the scene. They know everything. This is actually frightening.
The only thing I can find going back about them is like a month.
Yeah, this is bizarre. So I've tried to reach out. So if anybody out there knows these guys, tell them we're trying to talk to them. I'd really like to talk to them. Unfortunately, it seems like they don't need my help, which really makes me feel horrible. But that they have put out two products that I mean, this could be a change in the world right here. I mean, I don't usually see products that are going to change the game. Like, this is what it felt like when Reaper came out. We're changing the game. Or like when Drumagog came out. That was like, oh, the game is changing.
Which is ironic, given how Drumagog ended up.
Oh, yeah, sadly. But, you know, I think those guys are still doing something else.
Something.
But if I don't know what this the capabilities of this thing is. If it's like Guitar Pro where you can put in drums and everything else, I'm pretty sure it will be. So if you don't own Guitar Pro already, and a lot of our kids here at the school don't because it is expensive.
It's very expensive. I use Tux Guitar.
Grab this right now. I mean, don't even wait. It's not going to hurt you anything to grab it. So just go get it and
it's free.
And get Tonelib GFX. I mean, as much as I love the Positive Grid guys, they really did a killer job on that program. And I know it's safer for me to use because it's using a lot less CPU in real time. So I'm just blown away by these guys. And if anybody knows them, I would love to know the history of where these guys came from. These guys seem to have come out of nowhere, and they hit the ground running so hard that everybody's going to be running from in front of them. I mean, they're it's the Hulk running down the road right now. These are two game-changing programs, and I can't say it enough.
And honestly, the amps, they were fairly close to what I remember those amps actually being like in real life, which is really weird because typically they have that thing, that like modern reimagining thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that 1.5K to 1.8K that I'm probably going to boost anyway, but like it's weird because they have a feel to them that's closer to modern like H&K amps than they are to the actual vintage gear or to the ones that came out in like the 90s, 2000s. They've got that thing usually. This is fairly accurate.
Yep. And in fact, they're so accurate that there was something else going on that really blew me away. And that's and early on when people were first making amp sims for the computer, I would have an experiment that could just show whether or not these things were doing it right or not. I'd take a pile of distortion boxes that they made and put them in a chain. And after the first or second one, it wouldn't get any more distorted. And you're like, something weird's going on here because this is, I mean, I guess it's wave shaping, whatever, but it's not getting more distorted the way it should. But
you can only clip a thing so much before it's just a square wave.
But they weren't coming near a square wave. That was my problem. Is that they were staying round, no matter what. They just weren't distorting. And I had one video where I put 7 instances of amplitude together, and it would get a little bit noisier, but it wouldn't get any more distorted. The high harmonics wouldn't come up. But when I took this thing, I took honestly, so take any software's version of the Boss Metal Zone, I think it's called, pedal.
The Metal Zone?
Or here, the Metal DS, whatever this is.
Oh, yeah, the DS1 and the ST1 are the ones I usually test with.
Yeah, I think it's a Metal Zone clone kind of thing, but if you turn it up, even biases, anybody's, it barely distorts. It doesn't. It distorts a little bit. This one distorts like the real pedal does. It distorts. It starts getting square. And if you put it in front of another amp, it distorts even more, and it starts making squealy feedback and everything else. And this thing acts the way that physically these things are supposed to act. And this is the first time I've ever been able to say that. I've been able to say that I can get amp sounds that I like, and that in the chain as a black box, it ends up doing what it's supposed to. But in this case, directly, each individual component does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is mind blowing. We've only been asking for this for 20 years, and it's not like you can't go down to the guitar store and grab one of these pedals and say, this thing's doing something that my simulator's not. But this one's doing it, which is incredible.
It really is.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
That is me putting 3 pedals in a row from Kazrog. Because if anybody does pedals right, I think it's Kazrog. They've done really good amp stuff. They do really good cab stuff. They do good pedal stuff. But when you talked about that, I was like, I wonder if I can just kind of do that thing and get some squealies out of it.
And what does it do? Does it actually get more distorted, or does it just get noisier?
Well, I'm about to find out.
All right. Science.
Science being done in real time. Wow. Huh.
Maybe
it's not doing squealies, but it is doing real hardcore squaring.
Well, that's good. Just put that through a flanger, then use one of those transgate things and cut it up, and then you got a.
All right, time for me to do that exact thing you just said. Oh boy.
And that was a long time coming too. Those transgates, we had them in analog. It's like, hey, where are they on VST? And then people started building them, which is cool.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Yo!
The system is down. The system is down.
I love it. Oh, that was. I didn't expect to do that, but that was fun.
And I got another one for. Let's see if you can see this right here.
Yeah.
So this is from Matt Cat Music, the guy who makes Cordy, and I don't know if a lot of you know that Justin and those guys used to try and hold my hand and get me able to code well enough to do something. If I could have coded, I probably never would have met Justin. I would have had my DAW out 5 years earlier. But I try and I try. I passed college courses in programming, got my degrees, everything, and still could never actually program. But Matt Cat in the Juice forum and the audio programmer forum actually helped me figure some stuff out a couple of years ago. And so he started putting this course together. And it's just so even if you don't know how to do C++ at all, he's going to teach you how to do a couple things in Juice. And for all the time of these guys that I've wasted, it was worth it, me paying the money for it. I forget what he charges, but it's something that even I could afford, so it's worth it. This starts tomorrow. I'm not sure if you can still get on this first course, but I am super excited to be taking this. So this is, as you say, covers everything you will need to learn C++ to be able to write audio plugins with the Juice framework.
PFM.
5 to 6 weeks. So if you're interested in programming, like I always am, and especially I tell kids around here, you're either going to learn this stuff or you're going to be washing cars for a living, if you're lucky, in a couple of years. Learning how to plant bananas and move rocks around is not going to keep food on your table later on. But hopefully we'll get universal basic income or some kind of crazy thing. Who knows? Whatever the future is going to do, this is going to be a crazy world. But if you want to be safe, learn how to program. I mean, just do it now.
I'm all for it. I'm also all for playing around with coding and just figuring out Juice and stuff. Like, that all sounds like a good time.
I'm so excited.
I have to go through a guy. I have to wait until Alex decides that my stuff is worth his time, and then he makes it for me.
And see, that's my problem too. So, a lot of even Audio Assault stuff, the stuff we worked on together, would have turned out different if I could code. Not that it turned out bad, but it's just, it always kills me when I'm like, back in the day, like if in the ancient days, when you went to a recording studio, the engineer actually wore a lab coat in certain places.
Yeah.
Some studios were like that. And the way that the unions worked, the producer was not allowed to touch the desk. So he's like, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to turn this EQ a little bit so this guitar sounds different, but he's not allowed to do it. He has to tell the engineer, and he can't put it in words that the engineer understands. And so, albums turned out funny. Then, a couple producers were famous for just saying, forget the union, and stepping up to the console and turning the knob and saying, forget it.
And those are the guys that ended up getting famous, and wouldn't you know it?
Yep. And so there's another thing. I started another Facebook group. We'll see how this one goes. Just I call it the Pro Audio Brain Trust, and I want to get people in there because a lot of times you're having you have a question, and you would think that, hey, everything's out there on the internet, but you'd be surprised. Like, even sometimes the most basic, like one time I wanted to know just how tall were Floyd Rose saddles between themselves for like the radius of a guitar, and the information wasn't out there. I had to call Floyd Rose, and they were actually able. They went and measured some with the caliper, and they were able to tell me their measurements. But just things like that, you think they'd be out there, and they're not necessarily out there. And then there's lots of things that are out there, but Google's new algorithms have obfuscated them so much that it's really hard to find stuff that wasn't that hard to find that long ago. And so I really wanted to get a group of people together who, know stuff, and then you could just ask, especially if it's like a session, you got this angry guy with his arms folded, like, okay, we got to get this working, and you don't know how, and these are the guys to ask. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, please join that group. It's just called Pro Audio Brain Trust on Facebook.
Funny you should mention the Google thing, because when you brought up earlier, you were like, hey, Google this few keywords. And I was like, why can't I find anything about the actual keywords? oh, heck, my phone just was listening to me and it was just like, hey, you wanted to look up keywords.
Oh,
But
word.
I usually use Bing. Not gonna lie, I didn't even realize that the state of Google was so bad
Oh,
because Bing has always done what I wanted, and if I didn't want to use Bing, I'd use DuckDuckGo, and it always brings stuff up. So for the longest time, I haven't realized how bad Google is getting until you were like, Google this, and that basic like, does Totalmix do this? I was like, I can't find anything. It's all videos on like selling Totalmix and how to use Totalmix, and
yeah.
nothing that even was about like stuff that should have been abundantly obvious. And I had to go to the third page to find like manuals for it, and it didn't even take me to the part of the manual that would be relevant. It was just, oh, here's some Totalmix manuals since you're looking at Totalmix stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
this is bad. It really was. Made me sad.
It's crazy, and so I want to yeah, now I guess I'm gonna go look at Bing and DuckDuckGo because hopefully they work. But there's other stuff that maybe never got out there that would be nice to be able to talk to people about and stuff. And so that's hopefully
This is
something we
exclamation
could do.
Dude, what's this exclamation mark do on Reaper? On the thing. Literally right next to the mixer tab at the bottom of my screen, there's a little exclamation mark, and I don't remember seeing it there.
I'm trying to think of where you're talking about.
All the way at the bottom, I don't know if you have the mixer window there. Let me see if it
let
stays
me
there
pull
if
it
I
up.
drag the mixer out.
Okay, I got the mixer. Not the eye, right?
The what? Drag that over?
I'm using the 6 theme.
Oh, yeah, no, not that. I think it's only if it's docked. All right, yeah, dock it and then go all the way to the bottom left corner of it.
Oh,
Like,
what the hell did I just do?
what is that little exclamation mark?
I don't know, but I just broke my. I don't know how to dock it on the bottom. I broke my Docker somehow.
If I right click it, it says attach Docker to main window, attach position, compact Docker when small and single tab, show tab close. Set opacity. Wait,
Yeah, I don't know.
I can set opacity on my Docker?
See, that's why I don't know. Every time I see Reaper, somebody else using it, I don't even recognize the program.
Well, that's also probably because you're so kept up on the newest stuff, like the 6.0 maker thing.
Oh, I'm barely picking that one up.
There's a huge kerfuffle around that one, apparently.
Yeah, well,
But I've
I
been
mean,
so out of the loop, I don't even know.
yeah, me and White Tie butt heads from time to time, but I think he's doing an awesome job this time. There's I don't think that the lines and text should be white. If when you select something, it turns white as well. That's hard, but hopefully they're fixing that part. But yeah, it's just the alpha anyway. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
I personally have always been a fan of that, like, thin bezeled curve or whatever with like a slight gradient where it's like a blue color and then gradually becomes more opaque or less opaque so that it kind of looks like a light shining in. So when you select something, it feels like you actually highlighted it and it's not just a thing you're clicking. But I like stuff with contrast because it helps my eyes.
Yeah, for me, I'm editing drums all day, and I get blasted for being
Really?
a noob or whatever because I want to see a very high contrast between in a time selection and out of a time selection, selected item or unselected item, and I still want to be able to see the grid lines. And so,
Yeah.
like, I man, it's funny the abuse I take on the forums and on Facebook and stuff. And it's just
People
like,
go after you for like no reason. They're all like, "What are you, a noob?" And you're like, "How do I tell them I've been at this for decades?" Like,
it's funny. It's like, it's those things. Like somebody on there the other day was just saying exactly what I say. Like we even had that episode where it's kind of about this, but you say if you don't know, just say you don't know. That's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, one other thing that hopefully everybody can put your heads together over this. I'm sick a lot of the time, and a lot of times that means me missing recording opportunities. Even like sometimes I can't even just even sit at work for very long. But worse than that, it means that other people are losing their recording opportunities. So I've been trying to set my stuff up so other people can use my room. I've got to get a bunch of locking cabinets or something. But my hard part of this is I want to make it so the computer has like separate logins, and so they can't wreck my stuff basically.
Yeah.
And also I don't want them deleting like the shared Dropbox stuff. But I do want them to be able to stick the stuff into my Dropbox folder so I can work on it from home. So I'm really not sure what to do, if there's like a way to make it so that certain accounts can put stuff in Dropbox but they can't delete it, or I don't know. But whatever. If people can think of stuff, I just need to make this this computer very multi-user friendly without giving up my ability to work here or at home on the same projects with the same file paths in Dropbox, or at least maybe I have to give that up. But that sure makes my life easier when I can open. And it shouldn't matter that you need the same file paths, but it's all the stuff like slates, triggers, samples, and your impulses and stuff. Like all of a sudden, all that stuff gets goofy if you don't have the same path. But maybe I can just stop using all that stuff and then I don't have to worry about it. I don't know.
Out of curiosity, and I don't mean to derail, but if you can see my screen,
Yep.
do you think that would be kind of like a decent setup for you to be able to see stuff? Because like when I highlight, it looks like this, and when the area is highlighted, it looks like that. And all these cuts, are those visible enough for you? Like, would you be able to survive that way?
Let me see. You know, there's got to be a shortcut in OBS to make this thing full screen right away.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking. What I want to see is your. Okay, so I'm looking at your drum tracks there, or whatever that is.
Yeah. So these are with a whole bunch of edits, and like one is selected, and then that region is highlighted, obviously.
Okay, so the highlighted region I can barely see.
Really?
I can see up in the tool in the ruler. You know, you have the contrasting color, for that white ruler mark or whatever. That looks cool. But the okay, so this was an early on thing. I don't know. So I don't know if you're old enough to remember Paris. There was a DAW called Paris. I forget which company owned it, but
Paris.
yeah, one of the really famous engineers was a huge fan of it, and I can't remember if it was Stephen St. Croix or who it was. Was it Paris? Oh my God! So we're going way back in history.
Oh, Ensoniq?
Yeah, was
Ensonic's
that Paris?
Yeah,
it ended up being Ensoniq.
Yeah.
I think somebody else actually had it first, or maybe not. I'm not sure. But so a lot of the Paris guys ended up going to Radar, and Radar had a GUI where when you selected things kind of like this, when you made a region select, it kind of inverted the colors, like completely.
Did it really?
Yeah, and that's really what I want to see, because I especially for like grid lines, like you know if you're let's say you're making a region selection that turns everything like way brighter or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your bright grid lines go away. They should turn black, you know. So I really want to see inversion, you know. But
so it would be like a negative, right? It'd be like a negative highlight where the colors become, it would be like a negative filter. So
yeah, and in fact we need like a three-way inversion, because we have selected. Okay, so here's the problem. We have selected item. We have and selected time. And so you could have a selected item not in a selected area of time. You could have a selected item in a selected area of time. You could have an unselected area, or you could have an unselected area in a selected area of time. And those things all need to be different, which makes it even more complicated. And then, so that's why I was thinking just like some kind of color inversion would be so much better. But like for right now, so you're coloring your bar, right? Like you just selected that thing, and that like select an item. Yeah, see that bar. That
and then
really
because they're all grouped, they all have a light highlight to them around the edges, like a a blue so that they're just faint enough that it's like, okay, that's not the one I have selected, but the other versions of it still have blue around them to let me know that they're all grouped. Now, that might be really subtle for you to see. It's a lot easier right here where there's a little bit more contrast from the bar below. But like, because these are all grouped, they all have an outline. Whereas this one's selected, and then this region is selected over here on the timeline. So all of these things to me are indispensable tools that help me to edit drums. I just didn't realize that maybe your eyes are bad and you need more contrast than that. But I can't live without contrast.
Yeah,
because
I like the contrast.
Yeah.
Where's your grid lines, though? Can you see your grid lines?
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's just those are the grid lines. I have dotted grid lines on for the purpose of keeping them separate from the actual
like the markers and stuff. And so you're seeing your grid lines okay, right?
Yeah, I see them fine. I've never had a problem with not. And then the ruler is solid, but dotted grid lines here. And when I edit drums, it becomes real easy to just snip.
And this is one of those things where you can totally tell when somebody had to edit drums for a living or not. You know, like they make a totally different kind of theme. So, yeah, that was always that one used to kill me.
Oh, heck. I had snap on. I don't like that. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. But that's how I do it because I like to align it that way. So when I'm editing drums, it's just a matter of, you know, aligning it to the grid that way. And it helps a lot to be able to see what I've selected.
Yeah.
To see if something's highlighted. So, like, if I'm out of the region that I had looping, I like to know that. And this is all good enough for me to see. And also if something is grouped. Those are the elements I need to know about. So I thought it was good enough for me to see. Didn't know if it would be good enough for you, because I'm always curious about what your ideal setups are.
You know, something about the time selection darkening the area that I'm actually looking at, it just seems wrong to me. You know, I think that's another part. Like, it just seems like if I'm making a time selection, it's like, hey, this is an exclamation point right here. And so, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure I get used to it. And right now I'm actually working okay in the pretty much the default. I had to change the grid colors, otherwise you can't see it at all. So
you can set solid edges for the time section though.
Yeah, which is nice.
I didn't know that.
So when you're editing drum samples, something like that can really speed up your workflow, because then you can grab a whole bunch of them at once and you go, oh, they're gonna be this long, and
that was my exact thought just now.
Yeah.
Usually I line it like I'll do that thing where you take 960 BPM and then you just adjust to the nearest quarter of a second and then have all of them set there with a marker up there, and I keep looking up and adjusting. That would make life easier.
Yeah.
Oof.
All right. Well, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover for this week. I mean, it's mostly that Tonelib stuff, man. That's just crazy stuff. And so, I guess I think I want to go get over to the skate park now. You got to get some of this flab gone. But yeah, thanks for being on, and especially if you know anybody who you think would be a good fit for our Pro Audio Brain Trust, invite them in and join yourself. And definitely don't even mess around. Go grab that Tonelib Jam and Tonelib GFX and go play with them. I mean, this is the best no money you'll ever spend in your life. So
the best no money. Also, I'm definitely gonna look into seeing if we could get somebody that can like figure out a way to do inverted color or like a filter over it. I'd imagine it would be something radically different than just the opacity and the color, because it is a filter more than anything else for us time selection.
And now that there is HSV adjust on the grid lines, you would think it's possible, but it may or may not be, because it depends whether or not it's taking into account the background color. So that's something I was talking to Justin about. We gotta actually we should. So I made another Facebook group, called Reaper V6 Theming Committee. So anybody who wants to join that, please do so. We're trying to Adam Lovett's in there, so hopefully that means that the default nitpicky edition will be done very soon after the original, after the final V6 comes out. But I would love to see inversion, and so if anybody can figure that out, like Phil says, it's a good idea. But,
it would totally be a great idea.
Yeah.
But that then leads into the question of, is that something worth putting in? Do people want that? Because I don't know if you guys are still in the mood to make things that only 1 or 2 people want.
Yeah, that's the other thing. But I think there's enough people that...
Because I'd love to see that. Now that I know that that's a thing that exists, that would be great for me because I love that kind of contrast.
Yeah.
And especially if it was compatible with other themes, that would be really useful, just as a check mark or slider. Yeah, I like sliders.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody, whoever's still out there. If anybody's watching on YouTube, I wasn't watching that. Sorry. I saw our Facebook chat. There's some people, but all right. Yeah. Anyway, Phil, thanks for being on, and I guess we'll talk to you when I get back from the skate park.
Yeah. See you later, yo.
All right. Bye.
Bye.